It's the station. CMPRadio.net, the voice of Chester.
Good evening, my beautiful community, my lovely guests, my beautiful and lovely fans. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of WWJD, What Would Josh Do, on CMPRadio.net. It is the station. Before I get started with the word of the week, like we normally do, in honor of my son, Kwali Aaron Shockley, I will be reading a piece. This is our first annual Ball for Kwali weekend. For those who have the invite, please make sure you go on there, accept the invite. We would love to see you at the basketball game, the barbecue, as well as the walk. The name of this piece that I will be reading is called Things Not Yet Discussed. My right hand, palm facing me, my bare knuckles, battle-written knuckles, worn down knuckles, for many life defeats, but just as many victories. My knuckles softly rub down your left cheek. Son, I love you. I see you. Son, never be sorry. Do you remember when I told you that? Kwali, I see you. These days, tears burn my eyes, blurring my vision. My voice is lost in the words of encouragement I speak into others. Son, do you remember how I will make you a breakfast sandwich right before school? I remember your smile. I remember your honesty. Dad, I don't like when you lie to me, you would say. Son, I hear you. Son, if someone was to ask me about time, I would ask them what time. Son, what time do we have? You must tell me something, please. My right hand cuffs under your young chin. Son, look at me. I said I'm sorry. Never be sorry. Do you remember when I told you that? Kwali, I miss you so much. Your laugh was so contagious, and your three-point shot would have given Steph Curry a run for his money. Son, you are great. You are amazing. Son, when I think of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, John Austin, you're on their level to me. We miss you. I miss you. Son, I need you. Sometimes I find myself losing my grip. Son, I am so sorry. Don't be sorry. Do you remember when I told you that? My soft but firm palm smothers the back of your big head. Son, walk with me. There will be days in life when you might feel down, days when you might not know how you're feeling. Son, that's okay. Son, have you ever heard of depression? As smart as you were, I'm sure you would have said yes. Son, how are you feeling today? And did I tell you I love you? Son, how are you doing in school? What are your friends like? Who's your favorite? Son, do you know how strong you are? Son, there's not another person that I will put against you. Son, I am so sorry. Never be sorry. Do you remember when I told you that? For those who know, I lost my 13-year-old son. He was 13 at the time, turning 14, Kweli Aaron Shockley to suicide May 8th, 2019. It was a day that changed my life, changed the way I talk, the way I walk, the way I breathe, the way I see things, the way I tell time. I realized that the greatest lesson that it gave me was that we don't have time. We just don't. And I just want to take this time to honor him and tell him that I love you, and I feel your energy. I carry it with me every day when I'm working in the community, when I'm working with other children, when I'm dealing with families that's dealing with depression or suicide prevention and stuff like that. Son, I carry you every single day, and your name will continue to live on through me. I promise you that. So getting to the show, right? And we have a great word. I love this word of the week. This word is shift. Small word, but very mighty definition. The definition of shift is move or cause to move from one place to another, especially over a small distance. George, I'll start out with you. When you hear that word shift, what comes to mind?
The first thing that comes to mind is changing lanes, switching gears, transitioning. It's an upgrade, though. It's like from a place where I was to a place where I'm at and to a place where I'm going. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it actually can come in different phases. So it could be your first shift from when you make the mental commitment, and then the second shift when you actually physically believe in yourself and start bringing that to life, and then the third shift is the movement and the action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Dave Galluch, candidate for
Dave.
Congress, my brother. Lately, you've been one of my partners in crime.
I like it.
When you hear that word shift, what comes to mind?
George covered, I think, how all of us would begin to talk about it, but you talked about small changes, right? Shifting, small changes. And I can just say through what I'm doing in my experiences, and even in the very, even in our time together and the things we've done together already, I've learned that the small movements, right, or the shifts make all the difference in the world, right? And in the context of what, all of us are trying to do together to make our communities better, that's where the success lies, is in those shifts. So,
what shift means to me currently, I think about the time that we're in, election time, and I think about the shift that needs to be made, right? And because we've been stagnated for 20 plus years. I mean, we're just being honest with each other. If we look at our schools, if we look at our communities, if we look at gun violence, if we look at the lack of care, we've been stuck here for over 20 years. It is time for a shift. It is time for our generation to shift into grandparents, to shift into elders, to shift into leaders, to shift into pushing our children up to be the next.
absolutely.
Wow. So when I think about that word shift, I picked the word and it didn't hit me right away. It didn't hit me until I did an interview and I was like, wow, we really need a shift. First topic of tonight, gun violence. The reason why I brought that up is there was recently a gun violence press conference. I ended up leaving. The reason why I left was because, for me, it was turned into a political event and not a community event. I didn't see anybody from our city hall. I didn't see anybody from our community on a panel. I didn't see any people that were directly impacted by gun violence in our community. And God bless the Spanish brother who I did get a chance to hear speak, and he spoke about his brothers and his families and things that happened to his families in Mexico. Mm-hmm. I feel for you. Great speech. But I ask you one question. What did that have to do with Chester? What did that have to do with the gun violence in Chester? A panel where nobody kids goes to our school except for Carol Kazim. And big shout out to Carol Kazim, someone who I personally endorse, who I love, and we're praying her in the office, right? However, nobody else on that panel kids go to our school district. Nobody else on that panel kids walk our streets. Nobody else on that panel kids played at our park. Another thing that really kind of ticked me off was it was just all Democrats. Our city, our community is not all Democrats.
Right.
You can't use a community issue and just use it and abuse it like that. So I left, I didn't like it, it put a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm just being honest about it. So, gun violence. George, starting off with you again. Mm-hmm. Where are we going wrong?
Wow. It's a loaded question.
We getting real tonight, y'all.
Yeah, this loaded.
We are getting real. Shout out to Bob. We are getting real. Love you, brother. I promise you, we are getting real today. I wore my t-shirt today just to stay cool because it's going to get hot. So, where are we going wrong, bro?
Well, I mean, truthfully, being a gun victim person of myself, like I actually was a victim of gun violence myself. This was years ago. It wasn't in these times. So when we start talking about accountability, I think that's the first problem. I mean, it's everybody's problem. You know what I'm saying? It affects everybody, wherever we're at, wherever we hear about a parent or a loved one losing one of their kids or any one of their family members through gun violence, it affects us all. Let me get back to the question because this is a deep one for me.
And it's personal.
Where we going wrong, and my nephew was just shot just this week, and I lost a good friend on Labor Day night. I mean, it's just ongoing things of events that keeps trickling into our lifestyle where gun violence is a part of our everyday life. Where we going wrong is we not working together. We all want to handle it separately. We all want to handle it in our own way, or we all want to handle it, like you said, at the press conference. It was only a huddle with certain people there. That's the problem. The problem is we all have to do it and work together to be able to combat it.
It was heart-wrenching even, bro.
Right.
Because I'm from the community. I lost a brother to gun violence.
Right.
I've been a part of it.
Right.
To see nobody represent that.
Right.
Blew my mind. To take an event so personal to us and to make it a political campaign, it just blew my mind.
Especially the topic. I mean, I get it. It's the hot topic. And I mean, don't get me wrong. As far as politicians, whatever, they have to take on the hot topics, whatever it is, going forward into the election, right? But that's a personal one. See, when you're talking about gun violence, it's personal to every parent that lost a child, to everybody that's affected by it. So you can't take it lightly. It's not just like a topic like trash pickups or certain things that need to be done. This is people that's losing their lives, and kids, every day somebody's losing their child. So it has to be more, it's more personal. It has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican, Independent. We all have to work together. So I'm gonna get back to that, like to what you said. I mean, if we don't all work together to combat it, the kids, the shooters, whoever's using these guns, if they don't see us come together, how do we expect them to put the guns down and start trying to love each other if they see us, if they see grown adults who's supposed to be in charge of making decisions, the leaders that's in charge, everybody that's making the decisions for them, if they don't see us coming together like we are on this panel tonight, then how can we expect anything to change?
Absolutely. This is an awesome panel. Again, George Mink, in the trenches, boots to the ground with me every day. a brother who checks on me every day, calls me every day, genuine love. I love you, bro.
Yeah, love you.
You already know. Dave Galluch.
Dave, that's our cousin.
Dave ready to go, right? Yeah, and because I know this issue is personal.
Right.
Dave, where are we going wrong?
Well, let's talk about that press conference. And I've spent a lot of time in Chester, lots of time in Chester, purposely because it's a community that has been left behind for a long time. And you can only get to understand the true challenges people face when you're meeting people where they're at. Not a prepared photo op, not where the cameras are. I'm talking in parks, community centers, events. George, where I met you for the first time, right?
Right.
In the park, right?
Juneteenth event.
Exactly.
Years ago.
And what bothered me about that, and of course I saw it on social media, number one, about half the public officials there don't even represent Chester. Literally, almost half the people in getting their picture taken don't even represent Chester.
Wow.
I mean, there was a Montgomery, think about that for a second. There was a Montgomery County commissioner there. What is a Montgomery County commissioner doing at a gun violence press conference in Delaware County? Can someone explain that to me?
Without nobody else from Chester.
Without an elected official from the city of Chester there. Okay?
Besides Carol.
Well, right, and she's technically not elected yet,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
right. So no elected local official.
Wow.
Okay. Number two, the performative look. Oh, okay, we're gonna have this press conference, so we have to wear this color, and we have this press conference, and I'm gonna wear this color because if I wear the color, I'm signaling to everyone that I
Right.
care about the issue. Don't care what color you wear. Okay. What matters is the words that come out of your mouth, and more important, the actions that follow those words up.
Right.
And I've observed that there are people who are elected leaders who like to use Chester as a place to come when they need photo ops taken.
Yeah.
But they don't come down here any other time. And that bothers me. And if we're going to fix this problem, we have to get past D versus R. It's real versus fraud. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay? Real versus fraud. And you know what? You might not always agree with someone. But if they're being real, you know where they stand. You outline where you stand, they outline where they stand, and then you discuss and you meet in the middle.
Right.
Because that's how you solve problems.
And that's adulting.
Right?
That's handling our issues as a community as adults.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I could take you being real. If you lie,
Right.
it jacks
And I mean, if
everything
you
up.
don't-
If you dishonest, if you just here for a perk of a vote.
Right.
My message, because we're gonna move to the next topic, but my message when it comes to what's happening now is, please, community, don't get caught up in that Democrat, Republican mumbo jumbo, right? Because a lot of great knowledge, a lot of great information, and a lot of great help has gotten lost in that.
Absolutely.
Right.
We have gotten lost. It is a tactic still putting us apart.
Yeah.
That statement right there that they make, I'm thinking about statements now that, you know, when they see that as a community member, I'm like, okay, but where are our Republicans?
Right.
Because they matter. They matter. Where are our people from our community that actually matter?
Right.
Because we have plenty of them. And we don't care if they're Democratic or Republican. We just know that they're doing a great service in our community, helping us advance, helping us get better, helping us come together. That's what we care about.
And what's most important about it is, and I've said this to you a million times, the first thing we have to do is get politicians out of the way, put the people in the community in the driver's seat, and the elected leaders help the people in the community in the driver's seat change things from the bottom up. That's how change sticks. That's how effective change happens. You don't achieve that standing behind a podium for 5 minutes, reading a prepared statement, and then leaving immediately.
Right.
If you really cared, stay and walk around the neighborhood and knock some doors down here. If you really cared, go to the park and walk around and talk to some parents, many of whom probably have family members who are victims of gun violence or increased crime, or their kid who was locked out of school for 2 years, or the myriad other problems that have happened over the last 2 years that get press conference to death.
Yeah.
I'm done with it. I am done with it, and I'm telling you, and I'm speaking to everyone in Chester and everyone in Delaware County, we need to get past this straight-jacketed paradigm we're in and start having conversations like this and get real people, not frauds, real people who are ready to lead and make tough decisions.
Absolutely. Before we move on to the next topic, I will say that I have never seen a house built from the top down.
No.
I've never seen it. If you have, please DM me the video. I need to see actual proof that that house was built from the sky down to the ground. Next topic is education. Again, over 20 years, we have lost more programs than we ever seen, are banned. It's wild, all the programs that we have lost, yet and still, we have all these small groups getting all this money. With no oversight board to say, okay, well, you just got $150,000 from the county or the state or the government. Where's the oversight board that's not somebody's buddy that's gonna say, where's your caseload? Let me see the families that you're helping. Let me see genuinely where dollar for dollar is being spent, because we're tired of being burnt. They're burning us. When you think about, that's exactly, you're burning our community. And you're sucking us dry because you come in with this fake narrative that you want to change something, and then next thing you know, you driving a nice car, you own 3-4 homes, you got this, you got that, but the community is still suffering. None of those homes are homeless shelters. None of those homes are youth centers. None of those cars are driving single moms or single dads back and forth to work or to interviews. We gotta stop protecting this phony narrative that we can't say nothing. I'm a victim of that. When I created this show, the first thing you think about the media and as a host is that, look, I don't want to get messy. I don't want to be viewed as the messy guy. Or at what point do we hold each other accountable? At what point does someone from the community say, wait, we got to stop this shit? Excuse my language, but we have to stop this. We have to stop protecting the frauds. We have to stop protecting the lie that Chester is okay. We are not okay. Our children are still dying. We still have drug addiction. We still have a high rate of mental health that is going unchecked, unserviced. We still have a lack of education, and big shout out to our new superintendent for the transparency that he is trying to give us. We notice it, we see it, and we respect it. However, we need more, and we need it now, because we're tired of waiting. It has been a waiting game before you. It was a waiting game before that superintendent. It was a waiting game for that superintendent. Everybody keeps promising the community this and that, and then we don't see it.
Not at all. When you have to wait
then
for the
it's
casino.
community activists like us, like Lena Mayfield and Pierre and you and all types of 10 of Life, all types of people, bro, all types of community people and leaders. It's up to us. They leave it up to us to clean up their mess. We're tired of cleaning up your mess. We're tired of hiding all the BS. And we need more. We need more. Shout out to Nicole. Hey, Nicole. She's asking a question. What about the funding formula? And I promise to get back to that soon as we. And are you referring to the funding formula in regards to education?
Yeah.
Please let us know.
The state funding. It's determined in Harrisburg.
So I'll let you start with that one. Dave.
So full disclosure, that's a state issue, not a federal issue, obviously. But I completely agree that the level of education, the funding you get for education, cannot be based on where you live. And some kids get, tens of thousands of dollars per student spent per capita, and other school districts get, $4,000 spent per capita, because you get blatant inequality in the quality of educational opportunity. I see Bob made a comment up there. Bob works at a school in Darby
Yes.
Borough where there is no air conditioning.
Wow.
The heat will blast all year long. Think about that for a second. In 2022 in the United States of America, there are schools in Chester that don't have shades on the windows,
Amazing.
which I've learned through speaking to advocates and things in the community and trying to educate myself, right? That's totally inexcusable, right? And at the state level, we have to make those changes to make sure children are getting the opportunity they need. I come from a single mom. I grew up I went K through 12 public school.
Yeah.
Right? We need good public schools. Absolutely. But we also, I do believe, we also have to give parents options. Parents should have options when it comes to what school you send your kid to. Now, we have to be careful not to make sure we're, hurting public schools at the expense of other schools, right? We have to hold all schools accountable. But, I do think that, especially with the COVID shutdowns, especially with the gross inequalities in educational opportunity, there are kids who need help now, and the only way that's going to happen is by providing them,
And
the education they deserve.
I always say that the scariest thing for me is that we haven't even felt the effects of taking our kids out of school yet. We haven't even felt the effects of that. Nicole,
Shout out for Divided Attention,
Yep.
by the way. I went to the viewing of that documentary. It is a fantastic,
Yes.
fantastic documentary to watch.
Nicole, I'm so happy you brought this question up, because legitly, me and Dave was just at Sun
What, the
Village Park.
forensic? Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about it, or was it on the phone yesterday? The forensic mobile units.
Yeah.
Like, we were just
We'll
talking
get to that
about
next,
it.
yep.
And Dave, I know that you love the idea, so I want to hear you talk about it, and then I'm going to bounce it back to you, George.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So forensic mobile crime labs, what are they? They're basically a van or a truck that have a forensic lab in the back of them. So you can drive them around, and their job is to process evidence at a crime scene. So say there's a shooting, you can pull the crime lab up right outside. Police can bring the evidence from the crime scene, document it, bring it directly into the lab, process it immediately. Right now, we don't have that capability in Delaware County. We don't have it in Philadelphia. Think about the numbers of shootings we have in Philadelphia, the murder, shootings, things like that. We're on pace for 3,000 shootings in Philadelphia. We're probably going to exceed 562 murders in Philadelphia, which was the record last year.
Right.
We're going to break it. And for those who don't know, Philly is actually part of the district I would represent if I win in November.
Wow.
So, but obviously we have gun crime in Chester. We have gun crime in Delaware County as well. So, getting mobile crime labs will allow you to process evidence faster, link shooters to guns to get violent offenders off the street. It's also going to help with forensic backlog. Part of the reason why we can't hold people accountable for the violent crimes they commit is because we have a ton of evidence that has to be processed. That'll help to speed that up. And then additionally, think of all the other crimes that could help solve, whether it be sexual assaults, rapes, that sort of thing, right? But perhaps most importantly, it returns justice or provides justice to people who have been waiting years to get justice.
George, what do you think about that?
I just want to know one thing before I give my opinion about it. Like, where would the funding from that come from? Like, who will we, like,
Good
they
question.
said we wanted to address it, Nicole, that's my sister, like, just, that's major. Like, that, I heard it, she mentioned that before at our other gun violence.
It's a
So I
fantastic
got to
idea.
mention this because she said rape as well, and that's important.
Yep.
Right. He mentioned rape.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, he mentioned rape.
Yeah.
But like, where would the funding come from? Like, who should we be knocking the doors down? Who can make this decision to make this happen?
So that would be something you could procure at the federal level and then provide in a grant for the state to purchase them, Or it could be something that your state representative, so if Carol wins in November, she could procure that from the state.
Oh, she'll definitely
to get that as well, right? So Nicole has the actual names of the grants.
Of course she does.
So,
of course
there you
she
go.
Of
Nicole,
course
we
she
love
does.
you.
Yep.
Thank
There
you
you go.
so
Of course
much.
she
And
does.
thank you so much for all your incredible work that you do, Nicole.
But-
we love you.
But the bottom line is, and that's why it's important for the member of Congress and the various state representatives to have good relationships with each other, to be on terms with each other, because you can have those conversations to let each other know, hey, look, there's this grant available, and I'm going to work to help get you the money, say, from the federal government for the 159th district, for
Right.
example, here in Chester. So yeah.
So we basically going back to the shift.
Absolutely.
We see everything's going to go back and just convert back to the shift.
And
man.
it's time for a shift.
It's definitely time.
It is time for a shift.
Like, there's no way we shouldn't be able to have that capability
For all
in
our
the city.
young voters, it is time for a shift. If you never voted before, if you never came out, this is the election. Please come out. Take this election time serious. It is time for a shift. And if we're not careful, our whole generation will be a blank in history. It is time for us to stamp our names in history. It is time for us to do what we need to do for our children. It is our turn. It is our time. It is our time. I'm 35, so I'm talking to my era. It is our time. It is time. Go register to vote and vote, please. So getting back to education, because I want to get back to that. Yeah. George, where are we going wrong?
I mean, first of all, we got old rhetoric schools. The schools, I remember when we first started this summer, the kids didn't even have air conditioning, so they had to send the kids home. I mean, it's just time to stop these things. We already knew this before school even started. We knew when school ended last year. Like, we already had people that were supposed to be accountable for all these things. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not taking out no names or whatever, but it's like the people that was already in charge in leadership did not make these things happen. Like,
for over 20 years.
So what we're going wrong at is the leadership. We got to go back to the leadership. See, the leadership is really the real core of what the real problem is to me, because the leader makes all the decisions. So we have to have the right people making the right decisions, and not just for themselves. The problem is we're dealing with selfish leadership. We made sure we got a soccer stadium. We have.
Can I point something out?
We got $1 billion business of. If you go down 291, all the businesses put together is worth billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars.
I want you to finish, but I want to point out something that you said that was so important that I don't want them to miss. It's about selecting the right people, not the right party. We tired of being in a gang, because that's what it is. That's the feel that they give us when they make it seem like, oh, you can't pick them because they're Republican, or you can't pick them because they're Democrat. That's the same thing as saying, well, you can't go over there because you from the east side. You can't go over there because you from the west side. You can't go over there because you from Sun Village. You can't go over there because you from the project. I'm tired of the gangs. I love my platform. I love what I do, because I get to know people on an individual basis. Will it be hard for them to work together sometimes?
Right,
absolutely.
Let me get back, because like a lot of the problem is by us not working on these things, it gives the kids the wrong message. The kids that's coming to school already don't feel like they're being cared for, because they have to come into school that doesn't even have adequate heat or air conditioning. So it already puts them in a mindset that nobody cares.
Yep.
So they take on this mindset, they take it home, they take it in their community, and that's part of that. All this goes back to shift, and that even goes back to the gun violence. It goes back to all the issues that's going on in the community, because we set the tone that nobody cares. So we putting that mindset in our children coming to school. I mean, it's a beautiful building. Chester has a lot of history in it, but the kids should have a new school. It should have been a new school built, or either updated or reconstructed, or something to the capacity to bring it up to the other school levels in media and Swarthmore and all these surrounding counties and all that, the school is still backdated.
Yep.
It probably still got asbestos in the school. I wouldn't even be surprised.
We still got doors on a stairwell with no glass.
Unbelievable.
In 2022.
Unbelievable.
I see a couple comments about the air conditioning. It's how do you expect to have children focused, able to learn?
1 hour, Nicole, but maybe more because we're on fire tonight.
How do you expect a kid to learn if it's May or June, early June, right? And it's 92 degrees in the classroom. How's that even possible?
When school used to be a safe haven. School used to be the one place that a kid could go to and get help from quality teachers, quality a school counselor, and know that, look, I'm gonna eat breakfast today, I'm gonna eat lunch today, and there's probably a teacher in there that loved me enough that's gonna make sure I eat dinner, and that school was that safe place. School is not that place no more.
I mean,
That's sad.
you're not making it a priority though. See, that's the problem. Like in every neighborhood, and I'm not calling out no neighborhoods, I commend these neighborhoods. I mean, that's how I want Chester to be. But when we send the wrong message, when you don't even care about your schools, I mean, what else do you have? If that means you care about nothing in the community. If you don't care about the kids going to school, first of all, being safe. Second of all, getting a proper education. So our answer is, let's send them home because it's too hot. So we're gonna miss a day of education because we don't have the building properly, the proper atmosphere for the building, for the climate and weather. It's ridiculous.
180 days, I believe, that's the number of school. 180 days.
Yeah, it's bad.
We have already watched them miss, about 5, if not more, of those days. We only get 180 days, and we are already behind compared to every other school district surrounding us. I was one of those kids that was privileged enough because of John Austin. Big shout out to John Austin. Love you. He's a man that's like a dad to me. I call him Uncle John. Raised me. I went to Strathaven. I lived out Swarthmore. In the middle of my 8th grade year, I came back to Smetley. It was the first shock that I had as a child, that I was 5 minutes up the road. And here it was, they was doing stuff in 8th grade that I was doing in 6th.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
Unfortunately, by now, it may have gotten worse.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. They're probably using the same books.
Dave, where are we going wrong? What is it that you see, should you be elected, that you can do to further help this process of getting us a better educational system?
It's a huge issue, and let's start at home in the family, right? Okay, because education does happen in schools, right? You need good schools, and we'll come back to schools, but let's talk about the family. We need to rebuild our families. We need to make sure that our families, can stand on their own with dignity, right? That parents have good jobs. Family sustaining jobs, productivity enhancing jobs, wage enhancing jobs. So people have the bandwidth to be a unit, right? Because when a child comes home from school, what he or she learns in school, they have to be able to retain it.
Right.
And if you have, a strong family unit, no matter how that family looks, right? Single parent, dual parent, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if we're trying to find economic policies, job growth, things like that to make families stronger, Chester as a community is going to be stronger, right? And when you bring good jobs back and you encourage entrepreneurship in Chester and you help Chester business owners, people who grew up in Chester, people who want to start businesses in Chester, you create jobs in Chester, you create a tax base in Chester, right? And then that's going to have more money in the economy to then put back into our schools. But again, to Nicole's point, because she just put up divided attention again, and certainly people should check out the documentary because it is extremely enlightening. We have to make sure that at the state level, because schools are managed at the state level, primarily not the federal level, that the way schools are funded are not, linked to the zip code they grow up in, right?
Right.
Your future should not be dictated what zip code you are lucky enough to be born into.
Wow.
So we have to make sure that children have opportunities. because education is the root of all success. You guys know that.
Right.
It's the
Definitely.
absolute root of all success.
It's paramount. It's the one thing that can't nobody in this world take from you, and it's the most powerful thing any human being can possess, is what you know.
And you want to give them the opportunity to have the same privileges as everybody else. That's all I'm asking for. All we were asking for is a fair playing field. That's it. So that again is going to keep going back with me with this shift theme, and it's going to keep going back to
That's
the
an awesome
leader
word, right?
and to the leadership. Like we had representation in the House and all these different places, and these people was golfing on our folks' time. Like seriously.
Yeah.
It might not have been golfing, it might have been another event. But it wasn't for the proper, you wasn't using your authority properly. You wasn't using your leadership to gain or to help or to do anything for our people. Like I said, it started at home. Like the mentality starts at home. Before, even if we have a brand new school here with air conditioning, it still means the most important part of it is the parenting at home and how these kids are leaving their homes. The parents gotta believe first. We gotta put like hope and real financial stability in the atmosphere before they can even send their kids to school.
So speaking about the family unit, another topic that I want to bring up is, and we was just talking about it earlier with our Councilwoman Portia West, is the child support issue. There's no, it's wild. There's no accountability for the women. And shout out to the women who genuinely go through the process, who genuinely, you know, do what they're supposed to do. And shout out to the men, right? However, the moment that you walk into the courtroom, there's a lawyer representing every woman. It has already started off unfair because there's no lawyer that's paid for by the county or by the state sitting there to appoint the other side, to represent the other side. Secondly, reentry. And George, you can speak to this because you're a reentry expert. Coming home from prison, right? You have, before they tell you to go get a mental health checkup, before they tell you to go get a physical, before they tell you to go get to go to a job search, they tell you to go check in out media, right? Now you're back in front of a judge who's threatening you, and if you don't find a job soon enough, you're going to go back to jail. Re-traumatization, right there. Also, they disregard all the mental health issues that somebody has to go through, man or woman, re-entering into society. You don't even know if I'm mentally capable of holding a job yet. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'm mentally capable of even holding a job because I'm re-entering from a hamster tank. Yeah. I've been in a tank for years now, where everything is structured. The time you wake up, the time you go to sleep, where you work, how long you work, it's all on what they call a timesheet. So to come out into the free world where there's no timesheet, there's nobody saying wake up for count, that alone is a big difference. And it's easy for somebody to say, oh, well, you're grown, that's what you should be doing. But the traumatization of waking up every day, they beat that into your brain for years. That's hard to overcome. Dave, I know you're a military man. PT, getting up, I'm sure you still work out every day. It's a part of your lifestyle now. Mm-hmm. It's built into you. You would probably get sick if you didn't work out.
my gym routine has dropped a little bit since the campaign started to be out. But no, I'm just messing around. Yeah, but I got you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
It's so just that alone, and it boils over into what the main topic is right now is mental health.
Right. Oh.
Where are we going wrong with our mental health in our community? George, I'm gonna start with you because I know that you out with the doc all the time. I know this is one of your specialties.
Yeah.
Where are we going wrong, bro?
Well, we have to accept it first. First of all, I mean, we come from a community that it was taboo. It's a taboo issue. We highly spiritual folks, and you know, we didn't know that we was being traumatized. We just was going with the way of life. We was in our communities, we was taught to survive. So everything came by survival. We had to go through the worst times. We had to experience all kinds of things that we witnessed in our communities, whatever. So to us, it was normal. But in the whole sense of the word and like the real reality, we were being traumatized. Our whole generation is generations and generations of trauma. So now it's coming to the point now where we're starting to be aware of these things. These things, they hurt us. They hurt our community. This is not how life really is. It's not really just about pissy buildings and all these things that we was glorifying and giving our self-respect for the hardest projects and the hardest blocks when we was really being traumatized. We wasn't supposed to be living like that. So now, you know, we understanding that mental illness is a real problem, and we basically all suffer from it in some kind of form, some type of sense. I mean, the first part of the reality is accepting, you know, number one, that we are traumatized, and number two, that getting the therapy will be able to help. So we have to embrace it as a community first. The community has to embrace, be able to embrace mental illness, that we suffer from it first before we can get help. Because it is help here. It's organizations like the Coalition, and they give free therapy. So, and it's not people knocking that door down. So we really can't blame anybody on this topic until we embrace it ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, we got Nicole in the building.
They say that the first step to correcting any problem is first admitting that you have one.
I have taken that line from you, and I've used it so many times. I've used it so many times.
And also, I want to share something that, so I read it one time on a show that a gnat, when it's born, can jump a height of 17 inches, right? So scientists took...
You said a gnat.
A gnat.
Like a...
Yeah,
okay.
All
right.
So scientists took them, put them in a jar. The jar was 8 inches, and they kept jumping until they hit the lid, right? And then eventually they would jump just to right before they hit the lid. Now, mind you, they're only jumping 8 inches. They're born being able to jump 17. Here's the best part of the story, is that they had babies. The babies are born being able to jump 17 inches high. But because mom and dad have only shown them how to jump 8, they never reached their full potential.
Wow.
At what point are we going to take the lid off of that jar and say, allow our children to jump out of the room?
Right.
Mental health is a lid that's constantly on us. We are only jumping but so high because nobody's taking the lid off and saying we have this issue.
That's a great example.
Right.
That's a great example.
That is.
Dave, where are we going wrong?
Well, so speaking from my perspective, which is primarily a veteran perspective, obviously mental health, similar to what you were saying, mental health in the veteran community, in the military community, was always a taboo topic, right? No one wanted to sort of admit, guys and girls who had done, 3-4 combat deployments, they had PTSD. They didn't want to admit that they needed some help. I think that in the veteran community, which could be a model for how we treat it in a lot of other areas in society, is first, like you said, just talking about it, right? Making people aware that there is a problem, but it's okay if there's a problem. Right. As long as we're working to fix the problem, that's the goal, right? We have to start, I think, addressing mental health in schools.
Wow. Okay.
Early, right? I mean, schools have one psychologist, but a lot of times kids don't even know that the psychologist is there. So I think regularizing, identifying mental health issues in school early to get people to say, hey, look, I have this challenge, I have this problem. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Hi.
Thank you for showing up.
I think that's really important. And then just Additionally, increasing funding for resources so people have access to mental health at every stage of their life, whether they be young, whether they be middle-aged, whether they be parents, new parents, reaching retirement age. Everyone deals with stressors in their life at various points. And A, we don't talk about it, and then B, a lot of people just don't have the resources, or C, people, they don't know where to find the resources. They don't have the information. So I think it's 3 kind of separate buckets we have to attack at a policy level at various levels.
So, Nicole, we're going to throw you right into the bucket.
Go ahead, right in.
We're talking about
Diving in.
mental health
Great.
and where we're going wrong.
You know what? It's funny because I was just appointed to the Mental Health and Intellectual Disability Board.
Wow.
For Delaware County, and that was one of, thank you, the questions that I asked, like, where are the resources? Where can the residents find the resources? So on Delaware County's Mental Health and Intellectual Disabilities page, it is all different types of tabs with different types of resources for adults, children, because one of my questions again was, when I was the climate manager for Toby Farms, it was like this year waiting list for parents and families who were looking to obtain mental health services. So basically with the mental health board and this particular page, and I'm going to find out some more as I continue to remain on this board, to ensure that people are obtaining the right type of resources. Also, in terms of idea, if your child has a IEP, it is a component that is called related services, and under the related service portion.
Real quick, Nicole, can you break down what IEP means for the audience?
Okay, a IEP is a individual education plan. Okay, it's individualized. Basically, the components and the need of the plan comes from a evaluation called a comprehensive evaluation report. When your child obtains the comprehensive evaluation report, the school district is supposed to break down the modalities or the evaluations that is needed for that child. Basically, on the permission to evaluate, it says what is the specific types of test and procedure, because every child is different, right? Some children are not going to perform within a 45-minute or hour duration. Sometimes you have to break the test down so that the child can perform at his or her best, okay? I mean, it's all different types of evaluations. It's speech and language evaluations. It's occupational therapy evaluations, because, even with reading, and I'm going to go back to mental health, even with reading, people don't understand that speech and language has everything to do with reading as well. So it's not just looking at, whether or not a child can actually break down words, which is decode, or put words back together, which is encoding. Also, how much information are they able to comprehend? What about retention, recuption, and regression? So when we really start talking about education, right, because people were saying, even with Team Kazim and being prepared to lead, we're definitely prepared to lead in the area, definitely of education. I'm up with that, as well as with the waiver program. So with mental health, when you're getting a psychological evaluation, right, sometimes children even need to extend beyond a psychological evaluation, and they need psychiatric and neurological evaluations as well. So depending on exactly what the child needs, that's the evaluation that is supposed to be conducted, right? And even if parents go outside of the school district and do an independent evaluation, the school district just has to consider. Okay, they don't have to absolutely just say, okay, we agree with everything that outside, psychologist, neurologist, or psychiatrist said, but then you continue to have a conversation. But if you do agree, then under the related service component, does that specific student need individual counseling? Does that child need social skills intervention? Does that child need social groups, right? Because even with the counseling, it's different. Yeah. So that related service portion, how much time, how many days a week? So with school districts, if parents even sign a waiver, if a student has MA, then that particular school district can be reimbursed with the, they can be reimbursed through MA. But sometimes as school districts, we need to do a better job making sure that parents are signing off so that the reimbursement can actually take place. So if a child has an individualized education plan, right, they can definitely, most certainly, get some mental health services. Also, if they have a 504 service agreement, special accommodations, then most certainly they can get some mental health treatment. But we have to be real within ourselves, because sometimes we have an issue of trust, right? If our children say different things, is DHS going to be involved? Do we have to worry about different things? But ultimately, we want to make sure that we create a safe space where families can definitely get the resources and help that they need. With social media, there's so much going on that a lot of our children are not being social. But if they like to TikTok, why can't we educate them through TikTok, right? If they learn through their eyes, why can't we, if a teacher is an auditory teacher and a student is a visual learner, then it's going to be a disconnect. So why can't we educate our children with all of the multi-intelligence? Why can't we teach them through their eyes? Why can't we teach them through their ears auditorily? Why can't we walk around and teach them kinesthetically? But also, our teachers actually need the tools to be able to teach, because I'm telling you, we have some of the most excellent educators in the Chester Upland School District that show up every day, in the Chichester School District, in the Ridley and Pendelco School District. But our teachers absolutely need the resources. And yes, education is a state issue, because on a federal level, basically what they have said is that we do not have a fundamental right to education, and that needs to be addressed. So my question is, as a congressperson, what would you do educationally, Mr. Galluch, to make sure that in some regards that education is a fundamental right?
Well, in my opinion, every child needs to have the same equal opportunity to education. Absolutely. I can't name a single person who wouldn't say that. Maybe there are people who would, but I wouldn't say that personally. And like I said, I think that it starts with making sure that it's like you said, the house from the top down. You can't build a house from the top down. Well, from the bottom up, it starts with school infrastructure, right? Is the infrastructure in place to actually provide a good environment for children to learn? So is there air conditioning? Is there heat? Do they have everything they need? Are schools falling down, right? We have to fix that. So if that means we fund at the federal level to improve infrastructure and things like that, it starts. That's the building block. Second of all, I've talked multiple times about the need for options in schools, right? I do think that a marketplace of ideas is good. So when it comes down to it, I think, we have to make sure that we're improving our public schools. We have to make sure we're funding our public schools in a fair manner. So kids who grow up in Radnor don't have all the resources in the world, and kids who grow up in Parkside don't. That's unfair. But I also think that it's going to take a long time to make some of these improvements in these schools. We have to continue to make progress. We have to increase funding. But in the interim, I think we have to make room for parents to have options. So if that does mean a charter school, I'm not saying charter schools are 100% the answer. I'm not saying, allow charter schools to take so much funding from the public school that then the public schools can't recover. We have to work that problem out. But especially with COVID closures, kids being out of school for a year, or some even now 2 years, kids are now behind 5 years academically or developmentally. And some kids can't wait, so they have to be able to get out, right? So finding ways at the federal level to provide optionality or to find funding for parents to shift schools, I think is also really important.
I think that every parent has a right to personally choose what school they choose to have their their children educated in. What I have a problem with is if a formula for the Chester Upland School District is, and I'm not, this is a ballpark, okay? If we're spending $9,000 in the Chester Upland School District and then $20,000 in another program for special education students specifically, that is a problem for me. It should be equity all across the board. You know, we should, whatever rules apply for the public school should also apply for the charter school. Unfortunately for me, you know, in my group of sisters, we don't have any time, right? Our children are dying in the streets. Our children need the opportunity to social, emotional, and educational resources, and we want to change the narrative. We believe that if we have the right people in the room working together, right, we should be able to solve this issue. Safeguarders, easy. Men, women went to the school. They addressed the issue to ensure that children are safe, okay? Corey Long with Making a Change, easy. He made sure that the resources were provided to students, okay? The William Tripley Foundation, through Camp Encouragement, they are ensuring that children who have lost children to grief, that those issues are being met. When a building is on fire, we have to address it, and we're in a state of an emergency.
What oversight board, if any, do we have to clarify? Because we have a lot of great organizations. We also have some that's not so great. Is there an oversight board that's double checking all the funding that they are getting to make sure that they are providing the services that they say they are?
Now, I don't necessarily know that answer, but normally when you go after or you receive certain grant funding, you are supposed to produce either quantitative or qualitative data to ensure that you are providing the necessary services that you say that you are. Normally is mission statements or proposals, that is mission statements for the group, vision statements for the group, but when you apply for the grant, it's actual proposals stating that you are going to, perform certain matrices. And as a result of it, the data should accompany the sign-in sheets exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. So I know for me, I would like to see a more boots on the ground type of oversight. Somebody that's actually popping up at the office, somebody that's actually saying, let me see that caseload, let me check that. Because I've worked on the state level and the county level as a caseworker. And if you have, then you know it's that time of the year where they say, oh, they're doing an audit. And next thing you know, everybody got to fix these folders. I'm tired of seeing them fix folders. Because if you're fixing a folder, that means that's somebody that didn't get all the services that they needed.
It's not, I'm getting ready to turn off my phone. I'm sorry, CMP. It is not hard to see who is exactly doing what they need to do. I mean, honestly, you go out and you see safeguarders. Here you are. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean
Take your time, sis. We ready to take an offering for you, because you spilling it tonight.
letting me come on. I got to go out here and advocate for a child real quick. I'll be right back.
Well, yes, say it, yes.
You know what? Thank you so very much, Josh, for letting me just come in. I just have to advocate for a child in Las Vegas, so y'all forgive me. But honestly,
this is work in progress right here. It's happening right. She's working right now.
We're gonna take an offering for you.
You see, I'm in a meeting coming.
That's all right.
Listen, we don't have long for our children. We have to ensure that we have people that are ready to hit the ground, advocate, energize the community, and do what they need to do, because our children, our community definitely deserves it. Also, Josh, I would love to come on to talk about the different waiver programs, the independent waiver program, the consolidated waiver program, the agent waiver program, community integration, and community transition.
Can we commit to next Thursday?
Absolutely, I'll be here.
We will see you next Thursday.
And I'm gonna take an offering up.
So there we, my next week guest. So big shout out to Nicole Congdale. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an honor and pleasure having you on. So we rocking and rolling. That was a fire. To get
Shout
back
out to my wife. She's watching.
Oh, shout out to Miss Mink.
Hey, what's going
Shout out
on?
to D Camp. I love you,
What's
baby.
going on, God's job?
So, coming to an end, Dave.
Yeah.
The election is coming. Why do we need to have you there? Why should the people vote you in?
Simply put, I will be real 100% of the time. I can't put it any more simply than that. You know, I've tried to walk the walk every single day of this campaign. Walking the walk means coming to communities, and I always use the phrase, meet people where they're at. Nothing staged, nothing arranged, coming on like this free-form discussion, showing people who I am, how I think, and my willingness to engage in ideas, sharing ideas, right, understanding how this works. The most important thing someone in a position of leadership can be is present. You have to be present. And for too long, leaders in so many walks of life and across, you know, this area at various levels just haven't been present enough. They're present when it behooves them. They're present around election time. And then as soon as that's over, they're gone, and then they're back 4 months before election time, starting before election time. I want to put an end to that. I want to put an end to that. I want to be here. I want to work for people, because that's what you do when you run for office. It is a job interview, and people need to start treating it that way.
Absolutely. George, I want to take this time because I didn't do it. Normally I do it in the middle of the show. But as normal, I want to give both you guys your flowers. Thank you so much for all the hard work, man, and love that you show in the community that you guys do. It means a lot to have you guys on the show. Thank you all for tuning in. Please continue to tune in for all of WWJD's special interview segments. Stay tuned to those. We got a documentary coming out soon. Stay tuned for that. And WWJD on cmpradio.net every Thursday at 7. It's the station.